All right, let's settle in and travel back in time. We're going to explore this absolutely timeless story about loss, about loyalty, and really about how a family can be completely rebuilt from nothing but ashes. I want you to imagine we're sitting right here in ancient Bethlehem, and I'm just a local historian telling you one of our most important stories. It's a powerful one.
So, this is the big question that hangs over everything we're about to talk about. How do you build a family when you've lost it all? This whole drama, it doesn't happen on some grand battlefield. No, it unfolds in the quiet, sometimes desperate decisions of two incredibly strong women. So let's follow their story and see how they answer this question.
Okay, so first we need to understand where this all began. Our story starts with a family that, seems to have it all. They're full, but they're about to lose everything. And this tragic fall, this is what sets the stage for the entire journey.
What's just so staggering here is how fast it all falls apart. First, a famine hits, and it forces a man named Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons to pack up and leave their home for a foreign country, Moab. For 10 years, they manage. They build a new life. The sons even get married to local women, Orpah and Ruth. But then, tragedy just strikes. Boom, boom, boom. Elimelech dies. Then both of his sons die too. Just like that, in what feels like a blink of an eye, Naomi is left a widow, she's childless, and she's basically an outsider in a foreign land.
So when Naomi finally makes her way back to Bethlehem, people from her old life barely even recognize her. And her response is just gut-wrenching. She tells them, "Don't call me Naomi," which means pleasant. She says, "Call me Mara," which means bitter. Now, this isn't just her being sad. This is a profound statement about who she is now. She feels completely hollowed out by what's happened to her.
But on that long journey home from Moab, something pivotal happens. Right there, on a dusty, lonely road, a truly radical choice is made. And it forges the bond that becomes the heart of this entire story.
Naomi, in all her bitterness, she tries to do what she thinks is the right thing. She turns to her two daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, and tells them, "Go back. Go back to your own mothers." She basically says, "I have nothing left for you. I don't have any more sons for you to marry. There's no inheritance. There's no future with me." It's practical advice, for sure, if a little pessimistic. She's trying to set them free.
And here we have this fork in the road, with two choices that could not be more different. Orpah makes the logical call. It's sad, she weeps, she kisses Naomi goodbye, and she heads home. It's the sensible thing to do, right? But Ruth refuses to leave. The text says she clave unto her, which is an old way of saying she clung to her. She just held on tight. This isn't a decision based on logic. It's a deeply emotional commitment against all common sense. And this brings us to one of the most powerful, unbelievable declarations of loyalty you will ever hear. Ruth just lays it all out. This isn't just about sticking around. It's a complete transfer of her identity. She is giving up her home, her culture, her gods, everything, to tie her fate completely to Naomi's. This is the exact moment the story pivots from being about loss to being about a radical chosen family. So you gotta ask, right? Why? Why would she do this? There's no upside for her. The story makes it pretty clear it's not about security or getting ahead. There's none of that on offer. It's all about a deep personal bond with Naomi that is more important than anything else. It's a choice that comes from love, not from obligation. Okay, so let's shift scenes to Bethlehem. Ruth's loyalty is now the foundation, and these two women are a team. And they are about to take a huge, high-stakes gamble to try and secure a future for themselves. This is where it gets really interesting. As soon as they get to Bethlehem, Ruth doesn't just sit around and wait for something to happen. She takes action immediately. She goes out to the fields to glean, which was this ancient custom where the poor could follow the harvest crews and pick up any leftover grain. It was tough, humbling work, but this act of initiative leads her, maybe by chance, maybe not, straight to the field of a man named Boaz. Now, Boaz, who just so happens to be a relative of Naomi's late husband, doesn't just see another poor woman in his field. he asks about her. And his workers tell him, oh, that's the Moabite girl who came back with Naomi. Her reputation got there before she did. And this is a really big deal because as a Moabite, a foreigner from a place that was often looked at with suspicion, she could have been treated horribly. Instead, Boaz shows her incredible kindness. He tells her to stay in his field, he offers her protection, he shares his food, and it's all a direct response to him hearing about her incredible loyalty to her mother-in-law.
So when Ruth gets home that night with a huge amount of barley and this story about Boaz's kindness, you can just feel something shift inside Naomi. The bitterness of Mara starts to fade away, and it's replaced by this sharp, strategic hope. She sees an opening, not just for survival, but for what the story calls rest. A secure future for the daughter-in-law who chose her over everyone else. And so the wheels start turning, and she comes up with a plan. A very bold plan. And this plan, wow, it was incredibly audacious. The threshing floor at night was a public yet very vulnerable place. Ruth is told to go there and make the silent, symbolic proposal to Boaz, asking him to step up and fulfill the duty of a kinsman redeemer, a close relative who was supposed to protect the family line. The success of this whole thing depended completely on Boaz's character and on the unbreakable trust between these two women. So Ruth's gamble pays off, but Boaz's response is fascinating. He takes this very private, personal moment and moves it into the public, legal world. Just think about that midnight meeting for a second. Ruth goes to him in secret. She's completely vulnerable. She's acting purely on faith in Boaz and faith in Naomi's plan. Her plea for him to spread thy skirt over thine handmaid is this intimate personal appeal to protection and marriage. But Boaz, he immediately says he's going to handle this the right way. The very next morning, he's at the city gate, which was like their public square and courthouse all in one, and he gathers 10 elders as official witnesses. He doesn't act on the emotion of the moment. He acts according to the law, making sure everything is done out in the open, completely transparent and honorable. And this contrast right here is the key to how this whole story gets resolved. The family is saved by two totally different kinds of kindness. You've got Ruth's kindness, which is personal, unconditional, given freely from the heart. And then you have Boaz's kindness, which is public, procedural, a duty fulfilled with honor. He even goes to a closer relative first to give him the chance to do it, and the guy says no. It's the combination of these two forces, one from the heart, one by the book, that puts this broken family back together. And that restoration is total. I mean, this final part of the story shows a complete 180-degree reversal of Naomi's tragic fate. And it all goes back to that one choice made on the road from Moab. Let's just remember for a second where Naomi started when she got back to Bethlehem. She said she was empty. No husband, no sons, no future. That was her absolute rock bottom. But now, because of Ruth's loyalty and Boaz's duty, the story comes full circle. Boaz marries Ruth, and she has a son named Obed. The family line, which was completely broken, is now restored. And this is the story's really radical conclusion. The women of the town, her community, they gather around Naomi and say something that would have been just extraordinary to hear back then. They tell her that her daughter-in-law, Ruth, the foreigner, the outsider who loves her, is better to her than 7 sons. In a culture where having sons was everything for your security, for your legacy, this is just a stunning statement. Naomi's restoration didn't come from replacing what she lost. It came from the fierce loyalty she inspired. And the final piece falls right into place when the community says there is a son born to Naomi. Even though Ruth is the biological mother, everyone sees this child as the one who restores Naomi's line and her life. The woman who came back calling herself empty is now, in the eyes of everyone, full once again. And so that brings us right back to where we started, with a question. This ancient story, it really pushes us to think about what truly makes a family. Is it just the blood you share, the biology, the obligation? Or is it something more? Is it the radical, unconditional loyalty we choose to give each other? A bond so strong it can turn bitterness into joy and emptiness into fullness. It's something to think about.